Well, we hope you appreciated the program that you've just seen. We certainly enjoyed a great deal having done it, except that we're adding this little addendum 5 days later. So that we did that program on the 15th day of November 2003, and Sid and I are standing here very sadly on the 21st day of November after having learned that our dear friend Arto Monaco has left this earth. And we're standing here with a kind of a heavy heart, aren't we, after that great celebration?
I'll underline that, a very sad day. And when you think of the kids that he meant so much to, and the fact that now this generation of kids and the next one will be deprived of experiencing Arto's charming work and everything. And but then many adults, my grown son and daughter, spent many hours over there. I still have pictures of her little girl, 3 years old, sitting on the castle throne, and Brian interested in all the Western stuff. So anyway, it is a sad day for a number of generations.
You know, some of us go through the last few years of our lives wondering if we've done enough to leave any kind of legacy. Here's a man that we never had to wonder about. What we did wonder about, and you and I have talked about it so many times, is how much the man did. His legacy is bigger than all of us combined. You know?
He was so versatile. As a matter of fact, to be very blunt, sometimes I almost resented him. Well, I'll tell you why. Because he was so versatile. Now, I could and did draw a castle. And Arto drew a castle, but then he went out and built one. I drew an old antique car, and Arto did too, but then he went out and built one. And he was so versatile. And then he'd sculpt a deer, and then all his technical drawings and the stuff he did during the war and all that stuff, just very, very versatile. And that's not fair to just ordinary cartoonists. You're not supposed to be able to do anything but draw goofy pictures, but he was, and then as a storyteller, well, anyway, we could go on forever. And you know, I did a comic book one time about some Hollywood characters, and I drew some of those characters. The only trouble is, Arto knew Charlie Chaplin, Gloria Swanson, had all kinds of tales about Hollywood. Anyway, he was one of a kind.
Calvin and I have considered ourselves fortunate to have met the man. Of course, my big kids, who are now 50 and older, also went to the land of make-believe and enjoyed it. It was just part of what we did. Yeah. Taking our kids to the land of make-believe. Where do you want to go Saturday? The land of make-believe. And so we did. Every time we talked to the man, and Calvin and I did a number of programs with him, we learned something new about him.
Right.
He was so tremendously humble about his work, and yet, as you said, he was never afraid to venture into the dark and try something new. You'd ask him a question, can you build this? Can you draw this? Can you make this? And his pencil was going on a piece of paper before you could finish the sentence.
That's right.
And so that's what we appreciated so much about him. He was just, you and I, you know, you try to encapsulate the memory of a man in a few words, and in this man you couldn't do it in a few volumes.
That's right.
But you can recall that Arto Monaco had this crusty exterior at times, and yet you mentioned it to me as we just sat talking about him 10 minutes before starting this camera. He was just a bowl of pudding inside, a soft heart for kids, for animals, for senior citizens, for his friends, and it was just obvious to us that he loved just about every minute of his life and everybody who walked into his field of vision, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And I facetiously meant about you, said about cartoonists resenting him. Actually, as talented as he was, he appreciated other artists, and I know we had many hours talking about, Leon Decker, a guy that is no longer seen much, but did a lot of covers at the same time with Norman Rockwell, and he even one of my good memories is that he seemed to think my stuff was pretty good. So he was.
He did. He admired you so much, and I'm just so happy that you two got to work together.
Yeah, that's something that I looked forward to a long time. I had known his work. We've been over to Land of Make Believe for a few years before I even met him. So I'd always wanted to meet him, and I'm so grateful for this comic book project. And then, like you say, that we were there just in the last hours of his being with us, and we have a lot of good memories.
We do. Calvin just purchased something on eBay today, as a matter of fact. We all, huh?
It arrived today, yeah.
It arrived today in the mail. Of course, not knowing that we'd be standing here this afternoon, but you can purchase almost anything, and this is just a little piece of memorabilia. And I've got little packages of things that Arto, he was so generous with what he had.
Yeah.
You know, so among my prized possessions are things I got from Arto Monaco, and those signed pictures of the various cartoon characters that Sid Couchey has given me over the years. They're all treasures, but the biggest treasure of all, of course, is the memory of this guy whom we got to sit with and break bread with and drink a cup of coffee. I'll never forget the first time we walked into his office. Gordie, want a cup of coffee? He handed me a cup. It looked like it hadn't been washed since 1903.
He didn't.
I'm sure
1901, actually.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
His shop was, as I said to you, it's a veritable museum, along with the old place that used to be the entrance to the Land of Make-Believe. Is just fabulous, full of all the things he's made and designed and thought of. But that shop of his, what a comfortable place with the dogs around your feet, and Linda there talking on the phone and trying to set up things. And like you and like me, we'll be doing projects our last day on Earth, which we hope is a long time from now. But he had always had 20 things that he had to get done by next week, you know.
And you couldn't go over there and visit for an hour. I mean, he'd just get started in an hour. And,
sure.
He had more stories. But anyway, isn't it kind of incongruous that, having said all these nice things about him, that he should be one of the villains in that story? But
this is the presentation that Calvin made of your drawing, one of the original drawing of the three villains for the comic book. And now Calvin has presented you a copy of it, and it's nice to have that as a little piece of memorabilia, because I was standing there when you exchanged that with him just five days ago, as we're recording this on the 21st of November.
Speaking about being timely, I was so glad that it all happened, one thing after another. But at least villain or hero, he certainly was suave.
He was suave.
Whatever that means. He was, and then this guy, well, we won't say anything more about him.
Yeah, he's a special character. Deserves a special place.
Speaking of incongruity, how about this guy being a villain? Can you imagine that?
No, it's hard for me to imagine this guy as a villain.
Let's not go any further than that.
Sid, I want to thank you for our friendship, and we'll be friendly for a long time to come. I want to thank you for coming up here today so that you and I could add this little chapter onto the life of Arto Monaco. We'd like to thank all of our viewers for learning about the man through the eye of Calvin's hometown cable camera. And I'm sure many of the people watching this program today have the same kinds of memories as we do, except that we're so lucky to have been invited into that inner circle over the last few years of this great man's life.
Yeah. Well, you and Cal led me into that situation, and
we've led you down a lot of paths now that we come to think about it.
I begin to shudder. I anticipate, I should say, what's coming next. Yes.
Sid, thanks so much. Calvin, thanks so much for allowing us to add this on to the end of the program. Thank you all for enjoying the life of Arto Monaco.
My pleasure.